welcome back to another 5-minute Bible story. Today we're going to continue talking about listening to God. The first week we talked about how we need to expect to hear from God. Last week we talked about how we need to learn to listen for His voice and to be able to hear His voice and know it's His voice. Today it's a little bit similar to last week. So we're going to learn how to listen to God even in the middle of a storm or in the middle of the noise and craziness of life. So let's see what our Bible story is about today. So today's story is about a guy named Elijah. We actually talked about him a few weeks ago, back when he was called Elisha. He was the one who helped the widow who couldn't afford her debts and they were going to sell her sons into slavery. He helped her fill jugs and jugs and jugs of oil and was able to help her buy back or sell off all the oil and pay her debts and still have enough to live on from the oil that she had. And it was a miracle that God helped use Elijah to perform. Today we're talking about Elijah. Says many, many years later, he did some pretty awesome things. At one point, he took on 400 prophets of a false god and challenged them to a contest and said, like, my God is better than your God and I'm going to prove it. And he had God bring down fires from heaven and burn up his altar, and like it was covered in water, and like the fire completely drained it of all the water and lit the burning sacrifice on fire. And the other prophets weren't able to do that because their God is a fake God and their God couldn't perform. So they ended up losing. 400 of them were able to do what that one prophet was able to do from who serves our God. So that's the Elijah we're talking about. And that event that happened where he had the sacrifice that burned up by the fire was actually the snowball effect. It started a huge thing happening where there was a queen named Jezebel. She was super evil and she hated Elijah. And more than that, she hated God. She thought that Elijah and his God were fake and they weren't the real God. She believed her God, which was named Baal or Baal, however you want to pronounce it, was the real God, and she wanted to kill all of the prophets of the gods of the Israelites, or the God of the Israelites, which is Elijah and his God, which is the God that we serve today. And she wanted to kill him, so she actually killed all the prophets of the Lord, and she threatened to kill Elijah. And Elijah was scared, even though he had seen crazy miracles and he knew his God was all powerful and able to protect him. He was scared because of this woman who said she wanted to kill him and said, I killed everybody else, you're next. So he ran away. And he ran out into the wilderness and he found the bush and he sat under the bush, and he was so afraid that he asked God, he said, God, please just end my life. I don't want to be afraid anymore. I'm tired. I'm done. Just end my life. God had other plans. In fact, he sent an angel to Elijah because Elijah was hungry and thirsty. He had been out in the wilderness, which is like the desert, for a while, and the angel touched him and said, "Get up, eat and drink. The Lord has a plan for you." So Elijah did what he was told. He got up, he ate and drank, and he walked for 40 days and nights to a place called Horeb, which is known as the mountain of God. And God said, "You need to go up on the mountain, and you're going to stand in my presence, and we're going to talk." I don't know about you, but if God said, hey, go do this, and you're going to stand in my presence and we're going to have a conversation, I'm going to do whatever it is that God said to do. So, Elijah did. He went to the top of this mountain, the mountain of Horeb, and he waited for God. And it says in the Bible, in 1 Kings chapter 19, it says that a powerful wind began to blow, and it was so powerful that it tore the rocks off the mountain. It just was tearing everything apart around him. And but it said that the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind came an earthquake. Now, earthquakes are really scary because they shake the entire ground. Now, imagine that you're standing on a mountain, which is just a big chunk of ground, and the entire thing starts to shake. I'm sure lots of rocks are falling loose and starting to roll down the mountain. But it said that God was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a huge fire. I'm imagining it's sort of like the fire that we saw with the altar, where it came down from the sky and burned up everything. I'm imagining this big fire came down from heaven and just raged all around Elijah. But it said God was not in the fire. And then after the fire came a gentle whisper. And it said the Lord was in the gentle whisper. It's crazy to think that we serve a God who is so powerful. He was able to create everything around us with just speaking it into existence. He's so powerful, he was able to split an entire sea, which is like, think of the biggest lake in Minnesota, and that's kind of what the Red Sea was. God was able to split that down the middle so that over 1 million people could walk through on dry ground where there used to be nothing but water. God is so powerful, but he didn't come in the wind, he didn't come in the earthquake, and he didn't come in the fire. He came in a gentle whisper, meaning that he was there in the quiet to meet with Elijah and comfort him. Elijah was scared. Elijah was done. Elijah wanted to die. He was just so tired and afraid for his life. He wanted to die, but God was there to comfort him in that gentle whisper. So I want you to think of a time. When is a time that you have personally been in the middle of a crazy storm and you needed some quiet from and you needed some time from God just to feel comforted? For me personally, I had a time it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I was at camp and I was in the middle of a transition in my life. I was living a life where I was kind of doing what I wanted to do and not really following what the Lord wanted me to do. And I was at a church camp that I always go to every summer with my family. And we were in the middle of a service and it was worship time. And I loved the worship there and I loved the services there. But try as I could, I could not feel it in me to just enjoy the service or the music. I had just this urge and this kind of like push to go outside and take a walk. So I did. I followed this urge to get out and walk, and I ended up walking towards one of the trails that goes through the woods. And it was in the quiet of the woods when I was all alone. It was just a nice little breeze in the woods, and the leaves were shaking, some falling off the trees, and it was just really quiet. And that's when I heard the Lord show up, comfort me, and say, I have a plan for you. You need to start doing things differently. Like you've been doing stuff on your own and it hasn't been working for you. You know it hasn't been working for you. You need to start doing things my way because my way is where all the blessings are. And if you want to be blessed, you got to do things my way. So I committed to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, I'm going to do what you say. And from then on, I started to follow the path that God put before me. And long story short, I'm in Minnesota now. I'm not in Texas anymore. And this is all part of God's path for me that I've been following and trying to do my best to not walk away from the path. And it's not always easy, but we need to find the quiet times, the quiet moments whenever things are going crazy around us. Seek out God in solitude and try to have him comfort you in that way. So that's it for our Bible story today. We have a crazy awesome event coming up at the end of this month. I made an announcement last week. If you missed it, don't worry, you're going to hear it again. We are going to do Costume Party a little bit differently this year. It's going to be on Halloween night, or Halloween day into night, 4:30 to 7 o'clock. And we're calling it our our Heroic Halloween Quest. It's an epic drive-through kids adventure. It's not going to be like what we did last year or the years before where we were inside playing games and doing stuff like that. We're going to have a cool drive-through experience. There's going to be lots of stations with characters and games and activities. And of course, we're going to have tons of candy. In fact, if you want to help donate some candy to make sure we have more candy than we could ever possibly need, we want to try to give out so much candy that you guys are going to have it for the rest of the year. You won't need to eat another bite of candy for the rest of the year. So try to help out, donate some candy, and show up on Halloween night from 4:30 to 7 and have some fun with us and stay in the safety of your car. It'll probably be cold, so you'll be warm in your car, and then just have some fun and get some candy. It sounds like a good time to me. I'm excited for it. But that's it for today. I will see you next week in another 5-minute Bible story. Bye, kids.